I have to admit, I'm in retreat, but I'm also going to batten down the hatches for tonight. Hello, it's Mark Manning and welcome to day, would you believe, day 36 of This Much Is True. Probably with an audience of less than the amount of fingers on my one hand here. But as I said to you, always do at the beginning, it's a commitment to go in 90 days and to see how things are getting on. I'll be honest with you, today was the first really day. Now, I came close once, but it was a real hang on. My chill music has to be taken down an octave or two or I end up competing with it. Yeah, it was the first day I kind of went, sure, who cares? But that is not the point. The point is to keep on keeping on and then get cracking and turn it in, get focused on a podcast on the normal platforms. Funny, some people actually like YouTube as a kind of podcast platform. But anyway, I can't quite get that into my mind. For me, yes, for YouTube, but it has to be Spotify, Podomatic, Podbean, something like that in the future. So, first thing I did today when I got into a funk, because I have a lot of work on. That's a good thing, it's a bad thing. It's a good thing in itself because it's lucrative and it's occupying. But sometimes you can kind of get a little bit cozy and say, sure, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll finish it tomorrow. And before you know where you are, if you're not careful, I'm always that bit careful, but you are in a kind of deficit position. And I don't want that because cramming is not what I'm about. Quality is what I'm about. But anyway, I thought I'd take refuge. First thing I did after I got into the funk was I got myself a haircut. For good or bad. I just had to tidy myself up, have a shave, change my t-shirt, even though you've probably seen this one a multitude. I revolved them, of course. And also, there used to be a series on TV many moons ago called The Likely Lads. You might remember Rodney Bewes, the late Rodney Bewes. And I can't think of the other guy's name now. It's gone out of my head. But he's a fine actor. James Boland. James Boland. Yeah. And there's a line in the theme song, and it's, the only thing to look forward to's the past. And I don't know about you, but between all the jiggery-pokery that seems to be going on in our world, and I am convinced as I get older and even more braver, by design, an awful lot of it is just subterfuge and deliberate confusion towards whatever end. Some of us have an idea what that is. Some of us can only speculate. But I think it's moving towards, let's just say, more control, a controlled environment. And really, I'm just not up to manning the barricades at the moment. I'm trying to sort myself out. The empty nest syndrome is beckoning very shortly, and I'm going through a little bit of nostalgia even for the old days when the girls were smaller and we'd go out to the park and I'd buy them ice cream. And so, of course, I'm happy they're thriving and flying. One's graduated from university, top results. The other one, again, got results today for her latest exam. Close to, top honours. They certainly didn't get it from me. Their mother is quite academic. Okay. So look, I just want to retreat into the past and talk to you about the good old days of the 1970s holiday in a caravan. Oh yes, not for me, a callow youth. 1974/75, the beaches of San Bastian or wherever it is, Torremolinos. No, we hadn't gravitated there yet. We instead would mount up the troops. And at that stage, there was about half the kids left. The others had kind of grown up. And we would head to Galway, right across that big old N11, and find ourselves in some godforsaken nook with a caravan rented ready for occupying by us. And yet I look back on the frugality of that and the simplicity and the minimalist of the whole experience, and I envy it. I envy the fact that life was so simple, and the beauty was the technology. I know it's an old bugbear of mine. The technology was not, I call these, I often say, put away your conversation killer. That's what I call them, conversation killer. The technology was so non-pervasive then that you could, mostly technology did not concern you. It concerned guys in white coats. A lot of people say they should be called on my behalf, but no, white coats and big rooms full of mainframe computers. Then followed on the desktop, and then followed on the portability that I was involved in a big way, and desktop publishing and laptop PCs. But back then, none of that even entered the equation. Instead, it was you, your mum and your dad, and one or two siblings. And your trusty short trousers to keep you company with your little socks, your little ankle socks. And my father, God rest him, would sometimes, I know he sometimes had a caravan. I can't remember. I know we had a huge mobile home at one point, which I never used. I was growing up, but he used them. My parents used it and towed the thing. It was huge. But I do remember him with some kind of an early form of caravan, because he used to fit the special mirrors, the big kind of oblongy mirrors, and and he was good. He was well able to negotiate the roads of Ireland. So myself, and I think certainly I can recall 1975, two sisters, and one was on the borderline of just kind of leaving school at that point, so she was more grown up than me and my younger sister. When we'd head out, and I can still see the vision of somewhere at the side of the road stopping off for a kind of a midway or three-quarters way to Galway roadside meal, like a little picnic type thing. And you might remember the small, and they were lethal as well if you weren't careful, the little portable gas little container, and you'd see the blue flame come off it. And I distinctly remember with some kind of can of stew or something like that. And it was being, it was real pioneer stuff, settlers, like sitting down at the side of the road with this can of stew being stirred. And the flies, of course, were getting attracted to it. But I do remember it, because I remember my mother, and she was very elegant back in the day. She had a lovely long black hair, and she was always very well turned out. Is that the expression? She was lovely. Real lady. But I remember that, because you kind of remember the stage of the day nearly. It was becoming evening, and you were somewhere in the wilds of Galway. And then we went across eventually, and probably outside of Salt Hill or somewhere like that, we'd come to the caravan park. And there would be our trusty caravan waiting for us. And I remember, there'd be that kind of clean stroke musty smell. I know it sounds contradictory, but the whole thing of the bunk beds. You, mum, dad, your siblings, and you're running around. Who's going to get the top bunk? Small little fleeting memories like that, but they may seem nothing, but when you cast your mind back to when you're seeing it with new eyes, it was an adventure. And I remember going into one of these, and very rare for the time, because everybody knew the page 3 models from those dirty English papers, those dirty English newspapers. But I don't know what one, it might have been the Sun or something. I walked in, and someone had left the newspaper on the ground or something. And that was my first full frontal. Like you're talking 75 or 74, full frontal lassie. Because I remember getting a fright. I must put this away for later. No, I was very shocked, very callow and innocent. But also, of course, at night time, you'd have these little gas lights, which is a term that's used a lot now, isn't it? But these were the little bulb, but it was made out of gauze. So it's like white, ethereal gauze. And you'd get it going, and it'd be kind of a small gas smell to accompany the light, but the light was a different light. It was almost like a glow. And what had you got for company? We didn't even have a television. We didn't have TVs in caravans. We didn't anyway. You might have a radio, but more importantly, you had companionship, you had family, you had conversation, and it was all innocent. And then maybe, come around 8 o'clock, we'd all pile into the car, and Dad would bring us off to some little Howiya cinema, and you'd watch these old 1970s, very kind of avant-garde or cheeky for the day, because they were always very harmless. This was now before the Confessions of a Taxi Driver or Window Cleaner or whatever. These were kind of matron ones, the Carry-On movies with Sid James, Hattie Jakes, Charles Hawtrey. I can see them still. And you know, as I get older, I can see their faces, but I don't know if this happens to you. As you get older, you can often see people and you can't remember their name for the life of you. You know them. Like recently, Esther Ranson came up in the TV, and I was looking at her and going, I know who she is, but I don't remember her name. But anyway, you'd see these movies, and they were fun, and they were colour. You see, I don't think we even had a colour TV in 1974 or 5. It was big colour screen. And I remember the Carry-Ons. I also remember Morecambe and Wise did 1 or 2 movies. One was called, for sure, That Riviera Touch. And The Intelligence Men was another one. And also, and this marks it for me, I think it's 1975, I remember a film called The Bellstone Fox. You can still probably see the trailer for it, if not the movie itself, on YouTube, because I looked into it a few years back and it existed there. And that was a very atmospheric movie, and it was filmed from the viewpoint of a wild animal, a fox. And the fox's siblings and his mother were kind of dug up in the warren, or whatever it was they're in, the foxhole, and they were clubbed. And he got away, and it was his thing that revenge was going to be his. So he was a wily fox, and he led all these guys on a merry chase. Some of them, I think, he led into the path of a train, a whole, like, hunt. You know, the guys in there, tally-ho, and the red jackets and all, and the hounds. He led them onto a railway track, and they were all massacred. I do remember that, and tears come to my eyes. Not at the horrific scene, which no doubt was contrived, but done very well. It's just... maybe it's a nostalgic thing. I miss the presence of very central, important people to my life. I miss the innocence of it, and I miss the love of it. Because if you're a child that's loved, you don't need anything else. You don't need to look like fucking Taylor Swift, or you need the latest iPhone, or highlights in your hair, or a series of Netflix with some goddamn Kardashians, you know, as role models. You don't need any of that stuff, because you've got a good grounding, a good common denominator amongst those that are amongst you, of decency and love. And you can laugh it away as being romantic, but certainly those pre-technology will remember the innocence of being out and about and the healthy fun of coming in after running around, chasing around, with playing with your friends, and sleeping. That sleep that you will never sleep again like you slept when you were 12 or 10 and the days were long. And then we probably end up at the coast at some point, or maybe paddling in the sea. I remember a crab, a small crab, really small one, just grabbing my toe. And it would be a week or two at max, and you'd pile into the big old Austin Cambridge or Ford GXL, and you'd be another, 300 miles back to Dublin. I have so much to do. Remember, come on, make contact here. This much is true at protonmail.com. Whatever is on your mind, you can do it anonymously. Just email me here. Fill up that fucking inbox. I'm fed up of looking at it. This thing will terminate probably in 90 days. But I'm here for those 90 days, and I'm a third of the way, more so, through them now. Take care, because I care.